Hello, welcome to Prescott Today. I'm Prescott City Manager Dallin Kimble and your host for today's show. We're going to start today with Mark Woodfill, our City Finance Director. We're going to talk a little bit about the budget for this year. We're going to talk about Proposition 482. We'll bring in our police and fire chiefs a little bit later to give us an update on Proposition 478. And we'll wrap up again with Mark telling us a little bit more about OpenGov, a cool new program that the city has to add some transparency to our finances. So Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Here. Oh, living the dream.
It's awesome. Good. How long have you been in Prescott?
In Prescott or working with Prescott?
In the city.
Living in the city? That's a hard question. I'll go with 45 years.
Been here quite a while. And you've been working for
graduated from high school here.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
And you've been working for the city for close to 40, right?
39.
39 years?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And in the finance department that whole time, right?
Yes, various functions.
Very cool.
Director since 2000.
That's very cool. So 25 years as the director of the department. And over that time, we've gotten a lot of awards from the Government Finance Officers Association. I think both for budget reporting and you can't call it the
annual comprehensive financial report.
There we go.
We've received the certificate of achievement and excellence in financial reporting for that document, the annual comprehensive financial report, for 43 years in a row. And then the distinguished budget award, we've received 23 years in a row.
That's awesome. And those standards, those awards, they tell us that we're meeting best practices, that we're...
Yes, your documents have to be in best practices. They have to be clear, concise, show compliance with law, achieve governmental accounting standards and general accounting standards.
Continuing to improve over time, as standards improve and change. That's an accomplishment. I don't think there's a lot of places that can say 43 years of recognition.
And it isn't you make it and then you just keep doing it that way. You have to keep it up with the changes and all the rules.
Right. As they've and over time they've added like performance requirements and all kinds of different.
Yeah, when I started a governmental accounting standards, there were 3 of them. We had 3 standards that we had to report with. Now we have over 102. So yes, we have a few more.
A few changes along the way. Good. So you know a little bit about budgeting, I think.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about, so for a city in Arizona, what's the process look like? How do we build a budget?
Okay, good question. In Arizona and actually across the country, you start with a strategic plan of your council so that the departments and the city manager know what the council is wanting the city to move towards. So the council does a strategic planning workshop, they adopt a strategic plan, and then from there that information is released to the department heads who put together their operating budget, their requests, their capital, their 5-year capital plans, and they submit that all to the finance department. At the same time, we're developing the revenue projections for the next year and the next 5 years to achieve these things. And we put that all together, and then we meet with the city manager's office, HR, and the departments individually and talk about their projects and their proposals, because you can't fund it all. There's limited resources, so you have to make priorities. You have to, say not this year on a project or two, and then we take all that, and once that's finalized and we have a balanced budget, we put that into the proposed city manager budget as required by our city charter. We put that out on our website. Now we're putting it out with OpenGov, which is our new program. That goes out, and then about a month later, we'll get together with the council at a study shop, a budget workshop, and with the public and the council, we'll go through how this budget achieves their strategic plan. And then from there, we bring it back in June for the budget hearings and the publishing and the public hearings and the final adoption. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the thing. There's a lot of rules in Arizona that aren't everywhere. We have limits on what we can tax. We have a state legislature that likes to keep changing what we're allowed to tax. They did that with our residential rental 2 years ago. It cost the city over $2 million in revenue for the general fund and streets. And they also affect what we can do with sales tax and other things. In addition to that, we have a constitutional expenditure limit, which is based back in 1980. So that's another thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that, and that's a lot of process to kind of get through to build a budget. You mentioned priorities. Most of that priority setting comes from the strategic plan that you started with, and the city council, any direction we get there, and then at the staff level, we'll decide based on that direction, how to prioritize, what we can fund, how far we can go. So we'll come back to the expenditure limit, but give us an overview of this year's budget. What are some of the big things that you think people might want to know about?
This year's budget is about $304 million. That's about a 9% increase from the prior year. Our operating budget is up 6.9 million to 145 million. And a lot of that is related to the public safety tax that was passed this last year, additional officers, additional fire personnel, as well as capital. Our capital is actually up 21%, and a lot of that, again, is new fire stations, other things that were promised as part of that ballot issue. Additionally, we have a lot of utility projects, solid waste. We have some significant airport projects in this budget. Hopefully we'll be grant funded, but about 25 million there, 33 million from the public safety tax. So a lot of exciting capital. And again, all this is out there for the citizens to look at and read the reason why it's in the budget and what the projected outcome is.
So a lot of people are going to hear that first part and they're going to say, $304 million, why hasn't the city done my road yet? Why haven't we done the road yet?
Yeah.
What do you think?
A lot of roads in the town. We do a assessment of the quality of the roads, and we try to hit those as best we can to keep them up where they are. Again, there's different types of road. Residential roads are always less of a priority than arterials and collectors because there's more traffic on those, and they fall apart more if they aren't kept up.
Right.
As opposed
Well,
to
and there's different kinds of funds too, right?
Exactly.
So we don't have discretion over all $304 million. There's pockets where we have X dollars we can use for roads and X dollars we can use for sewer, and we have to stick to those pockets. We don't get to move money from one pocket to the other.
No, there are designated funds. The only fund that has some latitude is the general fund, but that's pretty well tied up in the services that the citizens have said they want, and the council has committed to continuing. And public safety, parks, rec, library, those type of things.
When we talk about priorities, I think some of the things that I get excited about are, within the strategic plan, we've done a lot of things in the last year to talk about public safety and address those needs. Now the next thing in the plan is economic development, and I'm excited to see the positions. There's two positions really focused on economic development, one specifically in that role, and another one to focus on communications, so that our current staff that work on economic development and communications can focus just on economic development. I think that's such a big deal, especially as we're thinking about the future, how to provide services, how to try to keep our tax rates as low as we can. We're going to need some more businesses, some more jobs, and retail to keep things going.
Very important, and in addition to that, there are 22.5 positions overall in the budget. A lot of those, like we've been saying, are part of that public safety tax, about 14 of those, 8 in PD and 6 in fire, but the 2 that you referred to, and then other positions in our streets and our utilities area to keep those services reliable and do as many roads as we can, even if we don't get to your road.
And we will. We're working on getting to all of those,
we'll
right?
get there eventually.
Right. Very good. Oh, anything else in the budget that you think people might be excited to see?
A lot of capital projects that are pretty exciting. We're continuing a lot of wastewater projects with the centralization we've been working on for years, and water projects, reliability, finishing up some very big water projects. But just a lot of good stuff, and just encourage people to get out there to the OpenGov platform and look at these projects and just see what's going on in your city.
And be able to follow along. So you talk about the process, you talk about some of the challenges, some of the cool things in this year's budget. once the council approves the budget, how do we monitor? How do we make sure that we're not spending more than what we have?
Well, we use the city's financial ERP financial system that does all the check writing, all the cash receipts, all that. We follow all these projects. It also flows into the new OpenGov platform, so the public can follow along too. That's a real-time program. Everything's caught up as of the night before for people to look at out there. We monitor it, daily, weekly, and monthly. We report to the council, and if we see anything it's causing a problem, we work with the departments to resolve it and come up with solutions.
And what if something comes up that is unexpected, either an opportunity or an unexpected disaster or expense? How are we prepared to address those?
Well, we do have a contingency in our budget. Obviously, the budget is a legal limit. We can't overspend that no matter how much we want to or need to. So we do have contingency in that, and council through a public meeting and a council meeting can move appropriation between departments to meet those needs or to adjust those, move those appropriations to where they need to be, or even one project isn't going to be completed and this one is ahead of schedule, we can move those contingencies around to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So it is pretty versatile and able to achieve that. So we have those, and then we also have additional revenues, not revenues, fund balances available in case there are anomalies, slowdown in revenue collections for one reason or another, which we've seen several of those over the last 40 years, where revenues aren't coming in, but police officers still need to be paid, those type of things. So we do have fund balance reserves set up for those type of things to address them.
And when we talk about reserves and fund balances, how much are we talking? Like, it's a little more than $20, right?
Yeah, we keep about 20% in the general fund for fund balances. That's about a $15 million reserve there, and then 10% in all the other funds, which adds up to about another $10 million overall. And in addition to that, we have unassigned fund balance over that amount for future projects that we know are coming up in the next few years. So overall, we have about significant fund balance in the general fund to cover those and to cover airport projects as grants are slow and repaying and those type of things.
Right. And 20%, like the dollar sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But you think about it, and it's 2 or 3 months to figure out what to do and make some adjustments. And,
yes. Correct. And that 2 or 3 months would be if all revenue stopped, of course.
Right.
Which is the worst case scenario.
Right.
So yeah, that's it is a lot of money, but it isn't enough to run a whole year or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's enough to be prepared for either a bad situation or a great opportunity, right?
Yeah, and it has worked. Like I say, well over that was a policy we brought in, probably 35 years ago now, to get it up to that level, because it was much lower than that at that point. But we determined we needed a little stronger fund balance.
Mm-hmm. Earlier, you talked a little bit about Arizona's expenditure limitation. What is that?
It's a constitutional restriction on what government can spend. It was based on our spending in 1980, which of course is 45 years ago. Doesn't really reflect what is needed or expected by our citizens today. Governments aren't exactly the same as they were back then. Roads cost a lot more to make than CPI would have gotten you there. So the limit really hinders a lot of cities. And if we look at across the state, there's been legislative solutions brought in, like a permanent base adjustment, where you can go and have that 1980 base increase to what you need for it to be now. There is a home rule option where you set the limit as part of your budget process locally with public hearings, and the council will set that each year. Those both require voter approval. And again, the home rule options, which is what the city has elected over the years, mainly because of the fluctuations in our capital program, it doesn't really lend itself to a fixed expenditure increase, because some years we have a lot public safety tax projects coming up, for example, and other years we won't have that many. So doing the home rule option allows us just to adopt that with what is needed for each of those years. But both of these options do require a vote, and the home rule option has to be renewed every 4 years. So that's why it's on the ballot this August, and Prop 482 that's out there. And without that, we would have to reduce our budget by almost $90 million. It's a lot of services we wouldn't be able to provide. You know, whether that's libraries, whether that's road projects, whether that's, you know, not doing solid waste or any of those type of things. Those are decisions that would have to be made. And again, it's not related to available revenues. You can have revenues to do this because you have a tax that was passed for public safety, but you just don't have the appropriation limit because of this old restricted cap that you have on it. But again, the home rule lets us get around that. But if that goes away, it would be challenging to provide the services citizens want from the city.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe even possible. So how much are we talking about? So there's this old formula from 1980 that is the cap, right? We're able to not apply or not, we're not subject to that cap in a strict way because of home rule, because our citizens vote every 4 years on this
Right.
Ability to set our own budgets. If for whatever reason we had to go back to the formula, what does that mean for us?
That would be a loss of $90 million in our budget. That's about 30% of our budget. It's a $303 million budget. $90 million is about 30% of that. That would be challenging. That would be a change in service level. That would be the city getting out of businesses that our citizens have wanted us to be in. So, you know, I can't really speak to, you know, what you would cut. That would, of course, be council discussions and workshops.
Right. But $90 million isn't just fluff. It's
right.
It's substantive sort of things.
Yes, absolutely. That gets through most anything anybody would want us to be in. It would be challenging. We definitely wouldn't get to your roads.
Right. It would make a lot of things very challenging. So that's on the ballot for August.
Yes.
Proposition 482, and that's just renewing the home rule
right.
Authority. It's not an additional tax. It's just the ability to spend the money that's already been collected. Correct. Because of this Arizona constitutional.
Right. It's not a new tax. It's not a new fee. It's not an increase in any of that. It's just the ability to spend the money. This is our 10th time taking it to the voters. I actually have done it those 10 times. So the voters have agreed with us using this for the last 9 times, and we're hoping, of course, they do it.
Right. The first time was in 1989?
I believe so.
Yeah. So pretty consistent record, and hopefully we'll get that support again so that we can keep providing the services that everybody enjoy.
Yeah. And again, all but 4 or 8 of the cities in Arizona do one of these options. It's just the constitutional restriction is just, you know, not workable, you know, in the world.
Right. Things have changed a little bit since 1980.
Yeah, for sure.
But we still don't have hoverboards and all the stuff we were promised, right?
Yeah.
Well, good. Let's take a little bit of a break, and when we come back, we'll talk with our police and fire chiefs about Proposition 478. Welcome back to Prescott Today. I'm here with Fire Chief Holger Durre and our Police Chief Amy Bonney. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Having a good day?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good?
Yeah.
I know the community is really interested in Proposition 478 and how things are coming along, so we keep providing updates. We're excited to do another one today.
Yeah.
What's going on? What are the big changes or progress with 478 so far?
Well, you would start on your side?
Yeah. We are so excited about what is going on with 478. And so at the police department, we have already begun hiring for those positions that we were allocated last fiscal year and will be allocated July 1 of this fiscal year. So that's a total of 12 new police officer positions that we are so excited to have. And we've already started working to fill those positions. So that's a huge thing for us, and it's really exciting for our department and all of our people. But also on the facility side, as you know, one of the things that we talked about as a major need for us is a new property and evidence facility. So we've been working on identifying the right site for that facility, and then also working with our Public Works Department to put out requests for statements of qualifications for architects and designers and builders who can help us develop this project. And a few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to attend a station design building conference in the Valley, and it was truly eye-opening. We met with a lot of architects, a lot of designers, and really started to kind of define that vision for what we think we're going to need. We toured some property and evidence facilities that had already been built and got a lot of really awesome ideas that are going to really make this project into what we really need it to be. And I keep thinking in my mind that I want to build this for the next 50 years, and I'm probably building it for a police chief that might not even be born yet. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to be as forward-thinking as we can be about what's going to best serve this community well into the future, and make sure that we're well positioned for continued success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredible perspective, right?
Yeah.
Some chief out there that isn't born yet will
probably,
be,
or he's learning to write his letters and numbers right now.
Yeah, and they'll be using this facility someday, and we need to make sure that it's going to be
yes.
what Prescott needs it to be.
Yeah, and like trying to be, forward thinking about maybe we don't need the capacity right now to be an entirely, electric facility or like have all the electric charging stations, but we probably should put the infrastructure in, right? So that I don't know what it's going to look like in 20, 30 years, but at least we'll have the ability then to adapt to what is changing in the world, in the community, and maybe do it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Try to get a little bit of a crystal ball.
To the degree we can do that.
Exactly.
Now you talk about the additional positions, and I know we've allocated positions in the past, but you're actually filling a lot of those now, right?
We're filling a lot of them now, and it really is exciting. So we just had 2 amazing police recruits graduate a few weeks ago from our police academy. We are starting another police academy in July, and we will have 8 police recruits in that police academy, which will be the largest recruit of Prescott police officers in the history of our police academy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a real story. Also, like in a time when police recruitment is a struggle nationwide, right. And yet we're pulling in the largest class ever.
Yeah.
Without lowering any standards, or we're
still finding really great people who have hearts for service. They want to do this incredibly difficult job for the right reasons. They want to serve and live in Prescott, and we're excited they chose us.
Yeah, that's really outstanding.
Yeah.
And then the facility, we're in progress, right? So you're talking about design, working on location, that kind of stuff? Yeah,
so it's been really helpful to us. At the city, one of the things that I value the most as a leader, and I know I speak for my partner here, is that we work as a team. So when we approach this project, I mean, our police building was built in 1991. And so I never have built a building like this, of this scope and this magnitude, but our public works team is super used to doing like high impact projects like that have a high value to our community and need to be built efficiently and effectively to serve future needs of our community. And so they've really come alongside us and helped us through this entire process, like what's the next step? If it were up to me, who knows, I would be Amazoning furniture or something, like completely out of my lane. And but they've been so helpful, and so yeah, we're in the process where we're sending out requests for scope of qualifications. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So asking firms to give us their qualifications so that we can make an educated decision about which companies we want to work with that's going to be best for our community and what we need.
Great.
Yeah.
Great to hear things moving along and doing all the things that we said we would do, right?
Yep.
Chief Durre, how are things going on the fire side?
Yeah, very similar. So obviously last fiscal year we get allocated 6 positions for a new engine company, and this coming fiscal year it's a further 4 to help us basically with daytime staffing of Engine 76. And I'm excited that we're going to be able to get that engine on the road as early as next month in July. And the reason why Monday through Friday 8 to 5 is because that is actually our peak hours here in Prescott. Many other communities see those peak hours Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. We actually see that Monday through Friday 8 to 5 here. And what I'm really excited about is long before the brick and mortar is there, we're going to be able to put service delivery out on the street to start lowering the response times, which is the main argument that we made during 478. I think there's not a lot of fire departments that do that. They tend to build the fire station first, hire the firefighters, get the apparatus, we don't have time for that. And really, we wanted to make sure that we got ahead of that, and thanks to the council support, your support, we're able to flexibly staff that. We're working through some of the policy-related impacts right now because firefighters usually work on 24-hour shifts, and now we have to ask them to work what the rest of the world works on an 8-to-5 work schedule. But our folks are service-oriented. They're willing to staff those roles. And so, like I said, very excited that come July, we'll be able to open that. On the facility side, there's really two main fronts that we're working on. One is our training tower. About a year and a half ago, we had to basically demolition our training tower because it was no longer serviceable. And as part of 478, we're now able to get a new training tower built. Same request for the statement of qualifications has gone out. We've already opened the bids, and we're looking forward to awarding that contract within the next couple of weeks. We just also then, for the station design for the 2 new stations, as well as the remodel of the station on 6th Street, have that RSOQ. We just had our first mandatory pre-bid conference, which basically, if somebody wanted to put in, they had to show up to that pre-bid conference to hear all the questions. And that is going to close on July 10th. We're going to award the design contract sometime by September with permission to proceed in October. And so really over the winter of 25-26 is when we're going to be really busy at designing those stations. One thing I think I need to emphasize there is that we're looking to have a base common design so that these stations don't become little unique things. We really, a fire station has to have certain components, and for us to be able to use that economy of scale and efficiency, I think is going to be really important. So we're looking for an architect, a designer, and a contractor that's able to help us save some of that cost, but also to do it quicker, because we really want to have those stations built as close together as possible, not physically, but time-wise, so that we can get that service delivery moving for the community as quickly as we can.
So it's awesome that you can get going on the 8-to-5 crew.
That's it.
Right? With recruiting, we've heard good stories from Chief Bonney. Are you seeing the same thing on the fire side?
Yes. So about a year ago, we shifted our model. Before, you had to have a Fire 1 and 2 certification from the state of Arizona before you could apply for our department. And we changed that and went to a model where you only needed an EMT basic certification before you applied. That, in concert with lengthening our applications being open for almost 2 months, has more than tripled our application numbers. And the quality, just like at PD, has not gone down. As a matter of fact, I would actually contend it has gone up. That's something that maybe surprised us a little bit because we were so in that traditional mindset. This is how we hire firefighters, right? And for us to be able to kind of break that mold a little bit really didn't only just help us, offset the problem. We actually got a new opportunity out of doing that, and we found some candidates that we probably would have otherwise never had a look at. And so that's something that I'm personally excited about, is that we've been able to not only increase the number of applicants, but the quality has gone up too.
That's outstanding. Mm-hmm. We've talked a little bit about the firefighters, the police officers, we've talked about the facilities. Another part of 478 is some of the equipment that you need. Do you feel like you're getting the equipment that you need to make all this work?
For us at Fire, we even in a way joke with council a little bit because it's that frustrating, right? The lead time on a fire engine, anywhere between 18 months and 36 plus months. This platform aerial that finally came in, we ordered that in May of 2022, and it literally arrived last month, And that is the reality of the capital equipment game in public safety these days. It's, the longer lead times that impact trash trucks, that impact even the regular consumer, it not only impact us here in public safety, they're actually even more protracted because it's specialty equipment. It's not just a cookie cutter Ford or GMC. You've got to have very specialized pieces of equipment, and because the supply chain is so complex for that, it has definitely increased that. Now, we do anticipate that now. We've been able to plan for it. We have great capital equipment replacement schedule that anticipates those timelines, but it's still something that we're still adjusting to because back, even 5-6 years ago, it was anywhere between maybe 8 and 14 months to get a fire engine. And now that's definitely not the case anymore.
So the new ladder truck is here.
It is here.
And that was about 3 years to get that.
Yeah.
And we're starting to order for future needs now.
Indeed.
Because it's going to come, but it's going to take a while.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Good. And on the police side, is it the same?
It is with some things. I am so proud of our Deputy Chief, John Brambilla. He's been managing our fleet, and he's got everything so squared away and dialed in that we're ordering well ahead of time. It still does take a tremendous amount of time to get a police car and to upfit it with the the sirens and the lights and the computers and the radars and all the things we put in police cars nowadays, it takes about a year. So we are, and that's actually faster than we've seen in the past probably 4 to 5 years. But other equipment we're getting in very quickly. And to answer your question, you know, one of the things that I think is a fun story is we're going through our reaccreditation process today and tomorrow, and we have assessors on site. And one of the things that they ask us to do is they ask us to put together a static display of like equipment and vehicles and sort of, you know, showcase what our capacity and capabilities are. And sitting in the corner was it's called a FARO. And FARO stands for something, I couldn't tell you exactly what right now, but it's a 360, 360 crime scene imaging piece of equipment that has some software. And we had tried to get that piece of equipment for at least 5 years before we finally got it. We finally got it about 5 years ago. So we've been trying to get this equipment for a long time. And just this past year, our detectives came to us and they're like, hey, they don't support FARO anymore. FARO's no longer being accepted in a court of law, so we need a new piece of equipment for it, and this one's called a Lyra or something like that. I forget the name. And it was a pretty expensive piece of equipment. It's about $85,000 if I'm correct, thinking about that. And we put it in this year's budget, and it wasn't even a question. And I had prepared them. I'm like, no, last time we asked for something like this, it's probably going to be a couple years, so we got to figure it out. And no, sure enough, that thing's on order, and we're excited. This 478 really gives us the ability to do what we really need to do to keep this community safe and move forward. You know, like I said, just be as forward-looking as we can and position ourselves for just continued and ongoing success with police and fire.
It's impressive, I think, with both of your departments to look at the technology that you have and that you use, you know, on a daily basis to do your jobs, which are broader than I think most people realize.
Yeah.
But also then to think through, you know, well, that takes resources to get that equipment. It takes training to prepare an officer or a firefighter to be able to use that equipment. And all of those, the more hurdles, the longer it can take to get something done. But we've been able in the last several months to be able to tackle a bunch of those things that have been pent up for a while.
Yeah.
And that's awesome because that means better services for our community, reducing those response times, getting better results, right, on our medical calls, getting to people faster who need help. Chief, you've often said nobody calls you on their best day.
Right. We're not the fire department.
That's true.
No, I do say that. And we want, you know, they call us, I tell my people, and I know they get tired of hearing it from me, but it's true. People call us on their worst days, and our job is to get them through those worst days to their better ones. And we do that first by hiring people with the highest character, the highest quality, and making sure that if somebody knocks on your door wearing this uniform, we know that that's the person that should be standing there. But they're also supported, as you said, by technology, equipment in the background that is helping them do their jobs quicker, safer, more effectively. And it really is, our profession has come a very long way in a very short time. The technology is just tremendous. It's an asset, but it's also, you know, something we maintain. So it's been pretty impactful to us.
Well, that's outstanding. We're doing what we said we would do, right? We're providing a way for the community to track all of that. We'll talk about that a little bit next with the finance director again. But we're just doing doing what we said we would do, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you both
for
being here. We'll take a little bit of a break and be back with our finance director, Mark Woodfill. Welcome back to Prescott Today. We just got an update from our police and fire chief about Proposition 478. I'm back with our finance director, Mark Woodfill, and we want to talk a little bit about OpenGov. We keep hearing about, you know, OpenGov, that this is a transparency suite for the city, but what does that mean? What does it do? Okay,
well, great question. Again, we did this on the June 10th workshop. If anybody wants to also go back and look at the introduction that Catherine did from our office on that. That's a good tutorial on this, but OpenGov is a tool. There's several of them out on the market. We selected OpenGov and have implemented it. It provides access to all of our financial information. Our budget book or budget document is all on OpenGov. It also provides direct access into our data. Our real-time data from yesterday is out there every day, where the citizens can look at it, query it, they can filter it down to what they're interested in, whether that's just the golf course or whether that's all of the city as a whole, by expense type, by whatever they want to look at it. It's really a good tool for them to do. It also has historic comparison. We go back to fiscal year 21, so they can go from fiscal year 21 all the way up to fiscal year 26. So it's a great tool, and in addition to having the graphs, the pie charts, and the other things, it has the actual data. There's also, in addition to those tools, there's stories out there with OpenGov, and the stories allow us to provide more than just tables and charts. They allow us to explain and talk about, and what does this mean type of thing. So it gives us the ability to give a lot more information for performance measures and financial data that are out there. And you know, we've been working to get it out there. We have it out there, but it's going to change. It's going to grow over the next several years as we do more stories, and as people use it and give us feedback. It's going to be a great tool for the citizens. Hope it answers a lot of their questions.
Yeah, so I go to the city website.
You go to the city website, you go under government. There's a button across the top that has government. On the government page, you'll notice about halfway down there's a tile that says data transparency. And if you go on that, you can see a link to the budget books. You can see a link to the public safety tax story. You can see a link to the transparency site, which is a site that allows them to look at reports and to filter those reports and to change the category that they're separated by. And they can also just dump the data directly out to a spreadsheet program if they want to play with it, you know, on their own analysis. There's help there. It's, you know, it also has different languages you can look at it in if you need to. Under the help button, which is in the upper right corner, there's a button that says contact the city, and there they can put in their name, their email address, and ask us a question, suggest a report, or ask us how to, you know, do whatever. And then when we get that, we can communicate back with them through email and hopefully help them get there, but also use that information to improve our product as we keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So that's a ton of financial information. I can go to the website, as you said. I can look up anything. I can look up any expenditure that I'm interested in. How fast does it update? How fast can I see what happened, you know, yesterday?
Well, every night. We update it every night. We tied this to our live data. Like I say, at the end of the day, when everything's in, everything's up, the data is moved up into the OpenGov platform. And so late that night or early the next day, you can get in there and see everything through that day. Mm-hmm. And again, you can look back 5 years and compare it if you wanted to know what we spent on electricity for the last 5 years. If you wanted to know what we spent on electricity by department for the last 5 years, you can do all those type of things, or, you know, anything, yeah. Salaries, whatever you're interested in.
And even just taking the data and doing your own analysis of
yes,
what you think, what you're interested in, and then maybe providing feedback or letting us know what you're finding, or whatever it might be. It might be a student doing a project or any number of things.
Absolutely, and it's a lot of data, and there's obviously anomalies when you're dealing with tens of thousands of data points in this type of database. So that's what that contact the city if you have a question. Why is this way? Or, you know, can you help me understand that? You email us, we'll get back to you as quick as we can, and hopefully help you use the product better and answer your questions. I mean, we're very interested in making our financial information transparent. We've been working on this for decades to get information out to the public, and we've done a lot of different things over the years, but this is the most exciting, I think. Yeah.
There hasn't been great tools over the years, and now there's just starting to be some cool things with the internet.
Exactly. We used to do financial reports, always done financial reports on our website, but we also used to hand them out on CDs at the front counter and things like that to get people to be able to have access to these documents.
Yeah.
but
that's
they were
really cool.
more static.
Yeah, and then we have the stories so that we can track specific things like Proposition 478.
Yes.
People are interested in, and they can just go right there, and all the information on that is available, and they can see it quickly.
Real time. If we receive revenue, on this through sales tax that comes in once a month, you know, it'll show what we've received this year to date. It'll show the balance, what was received, what was spent, what's available for the next year, and so on. And it also has a full 5-year projection of the projects and things.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. That's next level kind of transparency, getting everything out there and making it so everybody can see it.
And that, of course, is our goal, and that's actually part of our strategic plan under good governance.
Yeah, so appreciate that support from the council, appreciate your department's leadership in making that work. That's all we have for you today on Prescott Today. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.